Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we are talking about ski or die.
Yeah.
Now, Aaron, whenever we do a skiing game, which comes up fairly often on one of the many shows we've done over the ages, I always make you tell your skiing story. So I'm not going to make you tell that story today.
Yeah, because I don't have one. I've never skied in my life.
What?
If it was this game for me would be called Ski and Die. That's what would happen.
I thought you went out with Beasley and Big Head and all that crew, and you
no,
took to the
I've never been on skis in my whole life.
Really?
Not one time. No, God, are you kidding me? I'd have broken ankles all over the place.
Well, what's kept you off? Because you've roller skated.
I have, yeah. Well, I mean, what's had me off is I don't like the cold, if you want the truth. If I could go skiing at, like, somewhere warm, maybe, if that was possible. If snow wasn't cold and the atmosphere wasn't cold, I might go skiing, but not now. There's no way I'd go now. But when I was younger, I might.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I've only been skiing one time, and once was definitely enough. I thought I would try snowboarding instead of skiing, because there's only one thing you've got to contend with instead of two. But that was a disaster, because what happens is when you fall over on a snowboard, guess what you do? You lay there like a dog. There's no getting up.
Because your feet are like attached to the board, right?
Your feet are attached to the board. And so, like, if you watch the cool kids, what they do is they kick their legs back up, and then they bend their knees and they spring back up. That's not what I did. I rolled around until the instructor came to get me. And then I took off the snowboard and I went back to the lodge.
Now, when your feet are on that snowboard, like, which are they both facing like the same direction, like a Hichidachi stance, or it's like one station forward? Okay,
it's the old Hichidachi stance, the old horse stance.
Could you do the old kip up like the wrestlers do to get back on your feet?
You could if you had any athletic skills whatsoever, which I do not.
You need like a backpack with a spring or something in it. You can just pull a thing like.
But that's what they tell you to do. They say just kick your feet up and spring back up.
Oh yeah.
No. But you know, Eep is funny. She went out the first time and she went right down the hill. She did a great job. So I was happy for her while I was watching her from the inner confines of the warm lodge over at Snowshoe.
Drinking the cognac. Yeah.
That's right. Are there any extreme sports that, you know, if you were going to attempt one in your younger days, that really excited you?
Well, again, all the extreme sports, well, I mean, none of the winter sports appeal to me because they're too cold.
Right.
So if I was going to do a extreme, boy, see, I don't want to be hurt is the thing. You know, and I've been, in my younger days, my body was a roadmap of pain. You know, in fact, I feel way better now than I did when I was probably like a third of this age, because I was like mauled all the time. You know, for just doing stuff like playing non-extreme sports like tennis or basketball. I'd be like mauled. So when it comes to doing an extreme sport, you know, I always sort of wished I could like skateboard, you know? That looked kind of fun. I'd like to feel the wind whipping through my hair as I like do an ollie or jump up for like a 720 or whatever. But I know that that's not going to happen. There's not a chance in hell that I'm going to get up and have the coordination to stay on a skateboard long enough to just go straight down a straight walk. I've tried. So I can't think of anything that would do it for me. Maybe if we were talking about pogo sticking, maybe we could do that. I've seen some guys do like extreme pogo stick, and I was okay on the pogo stick.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the more extreme things you can do out there is an extreme pogo.
I've seen those guys get the pogos up on the trampoline.
Yeah.
You ever seen that? Yeah. Now that's stupid.
Next level.
Can you think of anything dumber? Well, I guess you could carry like some nitroglycerin in your belt or something just to make it even more extreme. Oh, you know what I'd love to do? I'll take that back. There is something I always wanted to be able to do: free running. You know, we were just talking about James Bond before the show. In the remake of Casino Royale, it's not really a remake, the reimagining or whatever they did with Daniel Craig's first flick. The opening of the movie is just a long pursuit where James Bond is pursuing this guy and they're free running through this town. And I thought, it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. I'm like, my God, this is the most awesome stuff I've ever seen. So it would be pretty cool to be able to do that kind of that kind
Yeah,
of jack.
parkour,
Yeah,
right?
parkour, exactly.
Yeah. That reminds me of one of my favorite episodes of The Office where they parkour to hilarious results.
So they jump on the rope and fall in a dumpster. Yeah, that's
That's
great.
the
I
one.
love that.
That's the one. And scream parkour.
That's a accurate representation of an average person attempting that.
Well, no matter what the extreme sport that I would try, if somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, do this thing or die," I would rather not. I would rather not. But we don't have a choice, Aaron, with today's game: ski or die.
Pretty good little tune, Boat.
Mm-hmm.
For the opening of this, I thought it was kind of a neat tune. You know, a lot of people have heard of Skate or Die.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
Had you ever played Ski or Die?
Yes. This one did get a NES release.
Oh,
and,
so you played this on the NES?
Yeah, and I rented this, I'm pretty sure, at least a couple times.
You know, I hadn't thought about that because the rental market, you are more likely to expand your horizons if you only paying $1 or
Right.
two, you know.
Right.
And so, like Brent used to rent the crazy games that we would never purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So I can absolutely understand where you're coming from there. Well, we're gonna be looking at Ski or Die on the Amiga this week. This was released in 1990 by Electronic Arts, EA. They had a busy year with this title because in 1990, this got released for the NES, as Boat mentioned, also for DOS, and what I believe was the lead platform, the Commodore 64. That's what I read anyway, and it makes sense after playing the game. This had a pretty large swath of creators, but I'll hit the high points. The creator here is listed as Michael Kosaka. This guy was responsible for a lot of games we really like, Boat. And you could see, boy, his fingerprints are all over this. He did 688 Attack Sub, which is a great game. He did Budokan. I mean, this is a lot like Budokan.
Yeah.
He did Centurion as a Destroyer, Ferrari F1, Swords of Twilight. This was coded by Nana Chambers and Michael Abbott. This, as far as that's the only thing they did on the Amiga. The music on this, and also on the DOS version, possibly on the other version, probably, in fact, was Ron Hubbard. I mean, again, Ron Hubbard, no said. And this was for the ECS, OCS. One disc, you can play up to 6 people with this Boat. Six players on this one. This game is pretty much, they don't try to break the formula too much from Skate or Die in this, including an overhead option screen at the beginning that's very reminiscent of the one in Skate or Die, where you go to choose what you're going to practice, compete in, or you can go back to the ski shop, and that's where your setup takes place. Just any thoughts on the presentation, opening presentation, the menus, that sort of thing, Boater?
Well, this is obviously presented as the sequel to Skate or Die.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that there was a Skate or Die 2 that was released later that had nothing to do with the original game.
It was released later than this?
Yeah. It was one of the most disappointing sequels of all time, Skate or Die 2. It turned the fun and excitement of the multi-games game Skate or Die into a horrible skateboarding platformer, which is not what you want out of a Skate or Die game.
Nobody asked for that.
Nobody wants that out of life. So this is really the closest thing that we ever got to a true sequel to Skate or Die, and you know it because the first thing you see is the ski shop that looks exactly like the skate shop. And then you roll into the ski shop, and there he is. It's Rodney, a.k.a. Rodney Dangerfield, a.k.a. Lester's Pop, who has opened a ski shop during the winter months somewhere away from the Southern California of the original game. So this game is designed to be immediately familiar to everybody who played Skate or Die originally. And that's a good way to go. I wish every sequel did that, where it's like, hey, it's the thing that you knew from before, except we changed it in some way. You immediately know how to get to the events. You immediately know how to practice. You know how to register your name. All of that stuff is there. So, yeah, I was immediately impressed by the overview. And of course, since the Amiga never got a port of Skater Die, which is insane, by the way, that the Amiga never got a port of Skater Die. This is the probably the only glimpse into that scene that most Amiga owners had, and so I think that this is one of the coolest ways to select a game from a games game type thing. And the only thing I can really compare to it is Budokan, because Budokan has a very similar setup where you are walking in a Japanese courtyard amongst lots of different buildings, which you enter to compete in the different events.
Yeah, it's very similar to this. By the way, just for my own edification, Rodney Dangerfield, are you a fan? Did you like him in his various movies or TV appearances? I love Rodney. That's why I ask.
I think he's okay. I don't really like comedians most of the time. Like he's always seemed like he's got a shtick. He's got these one-liners, hey, blah 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 blah, and everybody laughs. And I mean, like that's fine. That's his thing. But I don't know if I could. I've never seen Back to School or what else was he in? Was he in Ladybugs, where he was a coach of the girls' soccer team? Yeah, I can't picture
Caddyshack.
Yeah, I've never seen Caddyshack. Maybe he's great. Maybe I'll give him a chance, but I just can't imagine dealing with that sort of humor for an hour and a half.
Well, I think you've been underexposed. If you go back, I'll tell you where to go. Go watch his old Carson appearances. Mm-hmm. He is outstanding on there. He's great now. He's never really been bad. He also did a brief, serious role in that the Natural Born Killers. He was an alcoholic father now. Yeah, so he actually did a dramatic role. He was around forever. He was a guy that he went from working at Catskills to he had his own clubs. He was quite popular and an interesting character. His life story is interesting. He came from literally nothing, so he worked his way up, and also was pretty much sort of featured in a very hilarious Simpsons. So with all that said, this game, it's not like they try to reinvent the wheel, as we mentioned. The first thing you do is you go to Ronnie's skate shop, and you can put your name in. Excuse me, ski shop, and you put your name in, and then you pick how many people are going to be playing with you. Sadly, I was running solo this week, and once you've done that, you've got you can go out and decide whether you want to practice events or compete or you could compete in a overarching series of all the events that you go through. You definitely would want to practice the events before you actually go in there and try to do the series. And I'll explain. There's one particular event that is brutally, painfully difficult, and you need to practice it many, many times before you should even consider doing it. I should mention, while you're in the ski shop, you can also look at high scores as well. So, with all that said, one thing, nary I forget this boat. What do you know about Burton?
Well, at first I thought that this was sponsored by the village in the Cotswolds that I visited with Pix and Pajako last November, Burton on the Water. But yeah. I guess they are a skate or a snowboard brand. Is that correct?
That's right. They and winter gear. Apparently, that's their bag. So and they're all over the place in this.
A lot of product placement in this game.
Yeah. So probably the easiest way to do it, Boat, is just we'll go down the list here of these various events, and we'll just start with the one I saw here that came up first in the video, which is the snowball fight. The official name of the snowball fight is the Snowball Blast. This has you it's a first-person view. You're in sort of like an ice fort, and basically you are throwing snowballs at children that run by. They try to hit you with snowballs, and occasionally other stuff also comes around when you're doing the blitz. The more you get hit, the more you sort of get covered in snow, and when you're completely covered, the game's over. When you run out of time, the game's over. Or if you run out of snowballs, the game's over. And it gives you various ways to pick up snowballs. This is sort of like your Operation Wolf style game, where you're basically moving the cursor out the joystick, and you're just trying to whack kids as they run by. What was your thoughts on the old Snowball Blast, Boat?
Well, before I get into it, I do want to recognize Edvin, who's in the chat. He was also at Burton on the Water. So, yeah, shout
Evan.
out to Edvin. So this game is probably the most straightforward of all of the
Yeah.
games. It's the only game that you really don't need to read the instructions to be able to do okay at. Um, I thought this was okay. You know,
Yeah.
what makes this interesting is that you are stationed in a circular fort, and you can face multiple directions, the four cardinal directions. You can go back and forth by hitting the button and then pushing one of the directions to change. This is also one of the only WHD load option is you can actually use the second button to change your location, which is an advantage of the NES version, which I went back and played also. This game is fun because there's a lot of different animations that the kids have as they run across. They kind of roll into battle like commandos, which is funny. There's a guy that will pop up right in front of you that you can absolutely cream with the
It's great to
snowball.
hit that guy in the face. It's very
Yeah,
gratifying. He's
yeah.
right there.
But there's also cross-country skiers and, like, innocent bystanders that you
A
have to
Yeti.
avoid. Yeah,
There's
a
a Yeti
Yeti.
that walks across.
Yeah, the screen is drawn pretty well. I mean, you got a nice mountain scenery behind where you are. It's like I said, it's straightforward. I feel like this is one of the examples of a game that goes on maybe just a little bit too long.
Yes.
That's my main complaint with it is just, this would have been fun for maybe like 30 seconds tops. Take your top score for 30 seconds and then move on. But that's other than that, it's fine. It's a fine game.
It's funny. This one plays different in practice than it does in the actual competitive event because it goes on. It's split into levels and you can. It's different. It's a different setup when you practice. And they're both good. They're both. Like you said. It's pretty simple. It is cute. I will say the whole game has the color scheme and stuff is almost almost like an EGA level of colors are distributed.
Yeah, I think the general consensus is that this was a port of the EGA original.
Actually, from everything I read, this was the original lead platform, and this was the C64, which we'll get to in a minute. But if you look at them side by side, they're eerily similar.
Okay.
Except for the color. So I would wonder. I thought the same thing you did. I was like, is this? Did they just do an EGA port of this? So who's to say it all came out the same year? But I would give this. I would give this level a C plus. It's okay. Okay on that one. So that was your snowball blast. Now the next event we're gonna look at, and this is the one, the downhill blitz. Okay, the downhill blitz is a downhill skiing event where you have to just go down these paths. You're literally dropped like a sack of crap on the top of the mountain, and you have to ski down the mountain. I will say I did pop for the instead of being gently dropped by a helicopter. It's like they throw you out. You have to glide. You have to ski down the hill and through moguls and across even like houses and stuff and like chasms. To get to the bottom of the hill, and you want to do it in a certain amount of time. Now, a few things about this level. As you go through the level, I guess they're trying to simulate like where you've skied, but it just looks like a long trailing glitch behind you. It's not what I would call the best effect I've ever seen. This maze that he's on, this is Mount Ultra Doom. Like, you would never ski down this in a million years. I found the first time I played this level, I will say, I was thinking to myself, because it wouldn't end. And I thought to myself, I've never had this little fun in the history of this show. I hated it. I'm serious. I hated it so much. The controls are so...
They're very twitchy. They're
goofy,
very twitchy.
And I just hated it. And it never ends. So if you suck at this... Like, I remember the first time I went down the hill, it took me I think it was 8 minutes. And it was 8 minutes of feeling like garbage.
Mm-hmm.
The second and third and fourth times I played it, I got better. And I got to the point where I could do the course in under 3 minutes. No, take that back, under 4 minutes. But I still was not having that much fun at this one. What did you think, Boat, of the old downhill blitz?
Well, this is the problem with most of the games, the mini games in this game, is that you are setting before you the precedent set by other successful games in this genre. So the two most successful games I think of all time are Track and Field and California Games. Would you argue that?
I would, yeah, I would. Me personally,
That's
I
not what
like.
I said. I said the most successful games.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I mean, I would say there's a good chance you're right.
Okay. The hallmark of both of those games, by and large, are that they are easy to be fairly successful from Jump Street on doing what you're setting out to do. And if you're not immediately successful, you know what you need to do to improve. The downhill blitz on Skate or Die is also the same way. The downhill, I think it's called the downhill jam. Did you play a lot of Skate or Die?
I've played some Skater Die. I wouldn't say I'm like a pro or
Okay.
anything, but I have played it. Yeah.
I'm sort of a pro at Skate or Die. I consider myself to be pretty good. The downhill jam, or the downhill, it's actually the downhill race is what it's called in Skate or Die. You have a very wide pavement in most areas that you're able to sort of move along in. You have lots of different paths, but the game doesn't necessarily punish you for taking the wrong path or the less traveled path. So if you were coming into this game with the mindset that this is just going to be like the downhill race on skis, you're going to be sorely disappointed. This is a game that you really have to take time to learn and come to grips with what they want you to do. However, once you do that, this becomes very fun. I ended up playing this event more than any other event this week. And by the end of it, I really respected what they were trying to do. And I'll tell you why. You don't realize in this game how important the jump mechanic is. You really need to be jumping a lot of the time in this game, because if you don't, you're going to be hung up because the actual snowy surface that you can ski on is not wide enough. You also get points for doing various types of jumps. So the longer the jump that you do, the more points that you get. You can jump just while you're going and do 360s and things like that. If you can establish a rhythm as you're going down the hill, and you do have to kind of memorize the track, there are opportunities to really show your stuff and get a really fun, get a really high score, and also kind of show off some moves at the same time. There's a lot of room for artistic interpretation of how you want to take on the course. So this game, the first time that I played it, I was much like you. It was 8 minutes of pure heck trying to get down that stupid hill. But for whatever reason, and I can't really explain why, other than the fact that I was listening to a real interesting podcast at the same time, I kept at it. And by the time that I'd finished playing it for 45 or 50 minutes straight, I was like, man, this is a game. They've got something here. It's a shame that most people are not going to give it this kind of time, because it's a games game, and that sort of goes against sort of the spirit of games games.
Well, I will say they give you plenty of track here. That's for sure. I got a picture of the entirety of the track. It's long. But this one right here, I thought that hit detection was not good. It would often put you right beside instant death, which I hated. I hate the glitchy look of the back of the thing. The steering's tough. Now, I will admit, after playing this 3 or 4 times, I went from absolutely hating it to tolerating it to being like, eh. And so I will say, as far as I can go. I don't think it's easy to revel. Now, there are some funny bits in there. You're right. You can jump up and do wacky stuff. I did like the bit where you jumped off the cliff and went through the roof of the house. I did that plenty of times. That's always good for a laugh. I mean, there's the seed of something here, but I just don't think it was particularly well done. And I don't think it's particularly attractive either.
Here's the other thing that I like about this game is that there's no fail state. So it's not like they're counting down the time and you can't reach the end of the course. They're counting up, and your score is based on how long it takes you to finish the course. So is the course too long? Probably. It probably could be a third shorter and be just as fun. but at least they give you the opportunity, even at your very worst, to just keep plugging away so you can actually finish the thing.
I think I would like it if there was an end time, because I can tell you that for 8 minutes was brutal. I was like, please, please end, and it wouldn't end. So yeah, that one, that's probably, I don't know, is that my least favorite? I don't know yet. I'll get back to you on that. I'm not sure. But yeah, obviously you were a bigger fan of that one than I was. But still, I mean, again, I was getting it. So let's talk about the acro aerials. This is going down a ramp and doing acrobatic jumps, sort of like a ski jump, but you're doing all kinds of tricks after while you're in the air, and then you have to land successfully, and you get judged. There are judges that give you a score. I like this one, actually. This is probably my favorite one because this is one of the ones that I instantly could figure out and didn't suck at. And I also found a list of like it's not rocket science to figure out how to do different tricks. Just by pointing different directions with your joystick, you'll do different tricks. But you can chain stuff together, and it's actually sort of fun. I did enjoy this one. The judges are wacky. It's funny, my scores were so low at first that I thought they were scoring you out of 25, instead of out of 50. But as I got better, I managed to actually get, I wouldn't say, I'm not going to take home the gold. I'm not going to take home the bronze, but I mean, they wouldn't laugh me off the course when I was doing it. What did you think about this particular one, acro aerials?
Yeah, this is another one that kind of belies it reminds me a lot of the figure skating event, or the not the figure skating, but the ice skating event in Winter Games, where you have to put in some time to be able to string tricks together for a high score. This probably isn't quite as esoteric as the ice skating, because you can land some pretty basic jumps and get a score. As long as you do something and you land, you'll get at least a 3. The problem that I have with this game, and I don't know if this is something that I don't like games that require you to have to hit the button a whole bunch to gain speed. And I think that's how you gain speed, is you're going down the ramp. I think you've got to hit the button over and over again. And
I never
not
did
have
that. But that doesn't mean
okay,
that wouldn't help you. But I never did it.
I felt like I was able to get more air doing that, but that could have been a total, placebo. I don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot, and I'll try to look at the docs and so on. I don't remember seeing anything about hitting the buttons.
The problem with, and I didn't see the thing that you posted on Discord until later on in the week, but the problem that I had was on Hall of Light. They have the manual in English, and then when you read the manual, they're like, for full instructions on how to do the aero acrobatics, check out the reference card. But the reference card on Hall of Light was in German, so that didn't help me.
Yeah, I saw that. And the thing I found was for the DOS version, but it was good enough to where I could figure it out.
Right.
But really, it's just like anything else, not like this. You just have to hit the joystick in a direction. The good thing is, in practice, like, you could go through this like at rocket pace. You know what I'm saying?
Now,
that's good.
I will tell you that I have seen video of somebody playing the DOS version of getting so much height that they actually fly up into space and you can see stars and planets and stuff.
That's awesome.
Which I thought was awesome. This is probably the best realized event in the game, in my opinion. It's easy to understand what you're doing. You can pull off some basic stunts and get a score, and get some applause, but there's lots of room to improve. Like you said, I really like the way that they personified the judges. I thought that was cool. And I thought all of these are not necessarily knockouts in the graphics department, but they are a step above sort of the 8-bit versions, and even the Skate or Die games. They were never really the most photorealistic games of all time, but they're fine.
I would say pleasant. I thought they were okay.
Yeah. So that's what I think about the aero acrobatics.
One thing I just want to admit, the DOS manual says if you hit left and right real quick, you'll go faster, which I never tried, because I just found this stuff, the DOS stuff last night. I had to go to there was a webpage devoted to this game that had been gone for like 20 years. Then I went back and resurrected it, and so I could read what they had, and so they had some hints on there. It's the only way I got anywhere at the end. So I think we both kind of dug that one. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one on the list here, and this one's a funny one, Bo, but I think you're gonna be just like me. Is the inner tube thrash? Okay, 2 players descend a mountain in inner tube, score points by picking up items, perforating your opponent's tire with a knife or fork, and finishing first. This is, to me, Bo. This was like your classic rip-off game. Did you get the same feeling on this one?
Well, again, I know that this is very similar to Tubin, obviously.
Yes,
but
that's the one.
This is also a ripoff of a game in Skate or Die called the Downhill Jam, where you're essentially doing the exact same thing just on skateboards.
Yeah, I have played that one, and I will say, it's like an amalgamation of the two, but it's not. I don't think it's better than either one. It's certainly not better than Tubin. And this is one game. They talk about perforating your opponent. It's real tough. I had all kinds of trouble perforating my opponent with forks and knives. You could pick them up, but I perforated myself a lot more.
Well, here's the problem with this game. There's many problems with this game.
Yeah.
One, almost without trying, you can beat the Rod or Lester.
I never
you only have one
Lester.
You only have one opponent. It's Lester. Okay. Yeah. That's problem number one. When you can beat the thing on the first go round, there's absolutely no, I guess you do get scored, but the points don't pop up when you do things. So it's hard to tell what is giving you score and what's not. I guess maybe the manual lists it. But I had zero desire to play this thing again. And that's the worst thing that you can say about any game. When you play it one time, you're like, well, I never want to do that again. The game, whenever you perforate your opponent, both tubers stop, action freezes, and so it's not like you can ever really get ahead of the other guy. They do that to keep both players on screen, but the way that the screen just freezes when that happens is no good. There's no alternate paths that you can take. There's no cool jumps you can go off of. What really would have made this game fun is if they would have made it so where you could go there's maybe 2 different ways you can go, and that you also have more stuff coming at you from the edges. Just like in Tubin, you've got the guys fishing off the edges and you got to avoid them. There's not enough obstacles really to make this that interesting. I just thought, like you said, it's a mostly Tubin, and then they took sort of some of the mechanics from the Downhill Jam. It does neither of the games as well as the originals.
What I would have done, I would have gotten rid of the whole deflate your tube aspect.
Yeah.
That's dumb.
Yeah.
It literally slows the game down to a crawl. According to the documentation, if you get a full screen ahead of your opponent, you get 100 points. So you can earn, but there's not a ton of point opportunities in this. And also, having to wait for your opponents, and the way they did it, it's just crummy. What would have been, you nailed it, by the way. Jumps where you could jump over your opponent. Big jumps, little jumps. There's no jumps at all. I mean, no proper jumps. Put some ramps in there, man. Make it a little more fun. I don't necessarily want to deflate my guy's inner tube, but let me punch him in the face. Mm-hmm. Maybe he just careens off into the, that's okay.
Right.
I would make the course a little less dangerous just in terms of puncturing the inner tube. I hate that. I mean, it just ruins this game. This game it's like the others. It looks okay. The course is okay, but it's not fun. I would say this is one of the, like, a lesser offerings of the bunch, in my opinion. It sounds like you would agree with me on this one.
To me, this is straight up the worst game in the game.
Yeah, it's not the best. It's not the best. So next on the docket, the snowboard half pipe. Okay, so you put your snowboard on and score as many points as possible by doing tricks as you careen downhill in a half pipe. This game I thought was okay. You could do a goodly amount of tricks. I mean, most of it's a lot of avoidance in this one, as not just tricks. And it's funny that one of the tricks you could do that I thought was odd is you can go up on the side and do one of those like handstand gimmicks, but like it completely stops the whole game. And I'm like, this is an odd thing to do here. you know.
Again, it's the skate or die influence, because in the half pipe, that's the big thing that you do in the half pipe event is the hand plant.
Yeah, the hand. Thank you, Boat. Now there are things in the pipe. There are rabbits with chainsaws. Don't hit them. There are of course little moguls in there you can hit, and they'll just jump you up in the air like the rest of the game. Then you see penguins. You earn points by actually collecting the penguins, and then you'll also see, like, I don't know, like blocks of ice or big wads of ice. If you hit those piles of ice, I guess would be the best way to put it, they'll knock you down. And basically, you're just going back and forth through this half pipe as you get down the hill. It's an interesting mix of doing tricks and at the same time trying to get through the up half pipe to the other side to do more tricks off the side. You can also do tricks as you go through the middle if you've got enough time. What do you think of this one, Boater?
This is a real missed opportunity. This could have been great. The best event, hands down, in the original Skate or Die is the half pipe. It destroys the half pipe in California games. It's the best half pipe in video game history, with the exception of the one in Skate or Die 2, which, in addition to the platform game, they're like, yeah, we brought this thing back too because we know that you loved it so much, even though it doesn't fit in with the rest of the game. What they could have done here is they could have done something very similar to the NES game Slalom, where you take out, the chainsaw rabbits and all that stuff, and instead what you do is you have this infinitely going skateboard half pipe, and you have just picture, if you will, something like Stun Runner, whereas you're going down, you're going through this chute, and you run over, triangles that increase your speed. And at any time you can go up on the side of the course, do an awesome 360-degree flip, and then land back on. The more the better you do, the less times you wreck, the more score you get, the faster you go, the more score you get. It's all about speed. When you play a game like this, like the snowboard half pipe, you want speed. That's what you want. And you don't want to be slowed down by obstacles. You don't want to have to collect things on the track. You just want to be able to do something, catch some rad air, up and just move through the course by doing stunts and stuff. And like I said, they got like 80% of the way there. I think they could have done a lot better with showing you exactly how to gain speed. I mean, essentially what you do to gain speed is you just skate on the outer rims of the course. But I would have liked to have seen the speed mechanic more highly developed, where you actually pick up things that give you more speed, little speed turbo boosts and stuff like that. They'll let you catch crazy air, so you can do like 1080s and stuff like that. And then if you land it, bam, you get bonus points, and it becomes something like SSX, like an early version of SXX. That's what I want out of this. It's just a missed opportunity.
I will say that this is the only event where you have like a coach at the top, or a buddy, and he has a bunch of. In fact, I've got a list of the dumb things he says, because I look at what he said, and sometimes I just like it was just random. He says some of the stupidest crap. One of my favorites. Come on, don't be a pimp. Scarf ice, Frosty. Which I don't know. Some of this, like a couple things, I don't understand at all.
Does he really say don't be a pimp? That's crazy.
Yeah, he says, come on, don't be a pimp. I've seen faster glaciers. That's a good one. Truly bizarric behavior is another one. Maybe these are sayings from back in the day. Don't worry, you're insured. That's another good one. So he's got some good stuff, but some of the stuff is odd. Rent some snowshoes, another good one. And so I think we've covered all the various events. Now, I do want to go to our comparison scene here, Boater. I looked at the C64 version this week, and you're going to see a lot of similarities because they're very similar graphically. And I think this is one of the things that lets the Amiga version down substantially, and that is what you've got here is a game, and it's an 8-bit game on the Amiga, and stuff like the half pipe could have been made up much more, just like you said. It could have been made much more awesome because you've got so much more horsepower to wrangle than you do on, like, say, the C64. And I mean, the similarities between the two are Like I said, I read that the C64 version was sort of like the base version, and I mean, just from looking at the two, like they look very similar. The Amiga version is a little more colorful and it's running a little better, but not much. And the thing is, we all know it could do way better. The top-down stuff that are in this game, the various races, like that's not hard to do, and so you could have made those a little bit better. But this 3D stuff, it stands out a lot more to me. The just how kind of 8-bitty it is. What do you think, Boater?
I mean, I don't know if you could really make this look better, honestly. I don't know if you could draw this any better with the Amiga. It's in a lot of ways, the Amiga was just, an 8-bit console or computer with better graphics, and sometimes better sound, but most of the time not than the C64. It wasn't like there was a 3D chip in there or anything like that. So I think for a lot of these games, it's just that, it looks slightly better and it runs slightly faster. That's what we're getting with the Amiga.
Well, I mean, I think it could have went leagues and leagues better than this. I mean, this is real, and even the audio,
The audio sucks. The audio is my
well,
worst part of the game. That's why I stopped playing the first time, because the tunes, like, I know Rob Hubbard is like a huge big deal, in composing stuff. But
yeah.
man, there's just something about the way that they emulate the electric guitar. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. It just really sounds bad.
I don't think they have. I've heard really good electric guitar, and just not here.
No, I'm just talking about here.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I like the songs. I think the songs are pretty catchy. It's just that they're not. It's not like they put a lot of time in instrumentation, or you're right. It's not that good.
No.
If I'm honest, it's funny because you know how people love on the PC. Everyone's in love with the
MT32.
Roland MT.
Yeah.
This is one of the games that supports that on the. Yeah, if you
I'll have to get John Marshall over here to show it off.
But I mean, we're looking right now. We're watching the snowball battle. I mean, you could tell they have moved graphics around, because I mean they're pretty identical in some aspects, but it's something to behold. I think that held back a little bit. The funny thing is, but me and you mostly played the games on 8-bit machines, so for me it does make the transition to something that's sort of 8-bit a little bit easier, because that's mostly where I played them, on the Atari 8-bits. So maybe that could be part of it.
And I will say that the NES version looks, I'd say it looks somewhere in between the C64 and the Amiga version.
Yeah.
Almost, it does look different. Like, you can tell this was a straight up port up from it, versus Ultra Games, I believe, did the NES port, which is a Konami outfit. And so the graphics were all totally redrawn.
Did they do the TMNT game on the NES?
They did.
Wasn't that them?
That was also Ultra Games, yeah.
Man, that's a hard game. Jeez.
It's sort of a weird thing. The NES, they didn't want the 2600 thing to happen to the scene, and so they're like, if you're a publisher, you can only do 4 games a year. So Konami was like, okay, we'll just make a new company. They're called Ultra.
Yeah, and a lot of people did that.
They did TMNT, they did Skate or Die, they did Ski or Die, but a lot of those are like, they're good ports. The Skate or Die port, I would put right up there with the C64 original.
So before I get into the magazine scores, like in your mind, as overall, where would you place this in your mind? How does this set into the Amiga pantheon?
If I was a contemporary reviewer, in 1990 reviewing this for the Amiga, I would probably go low 80s.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay. Okay, interesting. Well, I do have the scores here. Our friends over at Lemon, and we love Lemon, by the way, give this what I thought was a pretty high score. It was 7.35. Our friends at Lore, from the Hall of Light, give us a 71%. The magazine reviews from back in the day were not as kind overall.
Really?
Amiga Format, gave this a 62. Amiga Joker gave this a 75. Amiga Power, issue 1, 52%.
Wow.
AUI gave this a 68. CU Amiga gave this a 76. Detour Magazine gave this an 80. Zero gave this a 69. The average on this one was a 69% when you tally it all up.
Here's the thing. The thing is, I can totally understand those reviews because of what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that all these people were familiar with the C64 version, and they'd say, "What is this? This is a
Yeah.
C64 game that they've prettied up."
Yeah.
52.
Well, they had simultaneous release for the most part, so you
Mhm.
can say that. I mean, and are
Right.
they wrong? I don't think they are.
They're
To be
not
honest
wrong,
with
but
you.
I think that so many reviews were biased back in this time with for graphics. If a game even smacked of 8-bit graphics, it would get a low score. Versus if you had something that really looked quote unquote next gen, no matter how it actually played, it would automatically score higher.
It's funny because I think the graphics in this are not they're 8-bit, but
Yeah.
I don't think it plays all that great. So I would probably put this somewhere in the 70s myself. That's just
Okay.
me.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
think that's fair.
how do we do on the Discord? Anybody give this a whirl, Boater?
We had quite a few Discord reviews
Oh, good.
this week, Aaron. And we always encourage our Discord community, which you can join by becoming a patron of Amigos, to leave us a little review for us to read every week. We're going to start things out with Pajako 6502. He says, unless you, I'm going to actually, no, we start with Fred Onions. I apologize. Fred Onions is up first. He says, I grew up playing Skate or Die on the C64. Not that I was any good at it, but it was fun and I put in a lot of hours. Ski or Die is one I never got around to, so I was looking forward to finally giving it a shot. Right away, the opening music is meh. Poor follow up to the legendary C64 music. That's right, the C64 tracks, which I
That's
think
true.
I don't know who did that music, but it might have been Rob Hubbard. The menu and event selection feel familiar enough, so I jumped in. Most of the mini games are mediocre at best. The only one that held my attention was Acro Aerials, where I kept replaying it to try and get better scores. The worst by far was Downhill Blitz. The controls felt backward and were way too sensitive. If this is all I had back then, I could have found some fun in it, but as a follow-up to a classic, it's a weak effort that doesn't do much to show off the Amiga. I will say, Aaron, in the original Skate or Die, there is an option in the downhill events to select either regular foot or what they term goofy foot,
Goofy
where
foot. Yeah, I remember
it
that.
reverses the controls. You don't get that option in this game, to its detriment. Chris Folds writes, who also was in attendance at Burton on the Water. It's like a reunion. He says, I don't normally review anymore, but when I saw this game, I had vivid, horrified flashbacks, so I must review to clear my mind. Where to start? Do I complain about the EGA graphics, the ear-popping AY soundtrack, or the boring minigames? How about I just bury this game as a cheap DOS port and hide it from my console-owning buddies? As Aaron would say, hot garbage. Best review I found online says Ski or Die is a game that should only be played if all other multiplayer games are exhausted. Burial from Chris
Man,
Folds.
we've played worse. We've played worse of these games. I think.
Oh yeah.
I don't think this is the worst.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. In fact, we'll get to that later. Soup says, I was going to play this, but decided not to. Question mark out of 10.
That's classic Soup.
It is. Jeff Hanna writes, in the late 90s, EA laid off all my friends and closed the first studio I worked at. 0 out of 10. He's bringing it back.
Vengeance scores. We're getting a lot of vengeance scores this week.
That's right.
Good Lord.
Mork writes, gave this a quick go on the old WinUAE. If this was one of those bargain basement games, I wouldn't be upset, but as it's EA, I doubt that. The graphics are just ripped from a DOS version, and the minigames are just meh. I can't feel the need to improve on any of them. Either way, my man would be dead from the ski jump or downhill ski alone. Using 5 out of 10 as an average, I give it 4 out of 10. Pajako writes, not even the reappearance of Rodney Dangerfield could save this game. I'll give the radical graphics and audio a break. I think they're pretty good. But the games are quite mediocre. It's like California games on ice, but nowhere near as fun. Downhill is virtually unplayable, and what kind of a sick mind has down to move? Why not the fire button as you use in the level select? Although the start of the event is hilarious. Halfpipe has potential, but is dull, and while obstacles are supposed to add some challenge, they're just annoying, as you should do the majority of the run jumping over them and not doing tricks. Inflatable sled racing is like a poor knockoff of Tubin. Constant stop-start and lack of control at the best of times ruins what could have been a great event. Aerial skiing just lacks the excitement of other ski jump games, other events and other games. It's all over too quick. Barely any time to pull some bad A stunts. Snowball Blast is probably the most fun, but having to keep track of 4 directions and throw snowballs with the D-pad and not mouse just made for an irritating experience as your crosshairs shoot across the screen. Played all the events a handful of times and intended to come back to them and realized I didn't, to which says it all. 6 out of 10.
You sort of looked like you were melting away as you were reading that one. Is your score coming down as you look through these Discord scores? I think we liked it more than anyone else.
I've got to say, this is probably my favorite game we've played in several months. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Oh, not me. I will say this. I thought I would hate it a lot more than I did, because I remembered hating this, having played it before.
I'm preternaturally disposed to like games, and
so am I.
And so I think that I'm willing to give a little bit more leeway to games in this genre. But yeah, it's definitely not a perfect game. And there are many games that you can play that will give you more enjoyment, including the immortal Mr. Men at the Olympics.
Budokan, it ain't. Now that game, that was a much more unique and interesting game. But this, if you just want to get together with your buddies, you got 6 buddies, it's okay. I looked this up on the eBay boater. So there were no for sale as of the filming of this, but there were some that had sold on the Amiga for $17 US, completed box. I did see the C64 version selling for $50. And if you want the NES version, if you want just a cartridge, $5, you're in. So I guess this wasn't a real collector's item, but if you want it complete in box, $70. I did not see any of the DOS versions of this game. So there you go. Ski or die. Does this make you want to go skiing, Boat, as the final word here?
It makes me want to die.
There it is.
Hello, I'm British Jones, and I am here to talk to you about RetroRewind.com.
Mr. Jones, it's .ca.
Oh, for fuck's sake, you put .com right here on the bloody cue cards. Do you like to tinker? Get the old tip wet with solder? Maybe just sketch or doodle. Retro Rewind has an expert team ready to fix all of your creative mistakes. Frank and his team just love how you've learned to fix surface mount components by burning a hole in your A4000 board. So if you've got a priceless treasure you've hacked to pieces because you thought you were Adrian, get it fixed right at RetroRewind.com. It's .ca.
Did you just flip me off?
Amiga News.
All right, Aaron, it's Amiga News time, and that means it's time to talk about the International Retro Computer Expo. Tell us about it.
It's Boat Fest. That's the cool name for Boat Fest. It's a happening, Boat. It's a happening. Once again, we're all going to gather here in Hurricane, West Virginia, July 11th through 13th, 2025. And we're going to hang. We're going to kick back, play some games, look at some crazy computers. And it's almost like a family reunion with all of our buddies coming back into town. We're going to eat good. We're going to drink. We're going to have a good time at the show this year. What are you excited about, Boater?
I'm really most excited to see all my buddies again. You know, like you said, this is a reunion. This is year number 4 of Boat Fest. It's hard to believe. And we've already gotten exciting news that both Graham W. Vebke coming in from Australia and Mitsuyama coming in from the UK. So we'll have some great international flavor. Be great to see those guys again. And I can't wait to see what kind of wacky stuff Bill Bright's going to bring. You know, last time, my first time meeting Bill was when he was unloading that gigantic console-style television from the back of his van with his Odyssey 1. I'm really looking forward to digging into that library. You know, there's so much to love about Boat Fest. It's literally the best weekend of the year. So yeah, if you are at all interested in hanging out with some retro tech enthusiasts, playing a bunch of old computers and consoles, come on over to Hurricane. You can get your tickets right now at ircexpo.net.
I will say, I've been talking to Bill, by the way. He's part of the Petzl Tuesday night club that gets together on Discord. Everyone should join that, by the way. It's a lot of fun. And he's working on some crazy stuff. You know, he's got one of those big, those big mega mech sticks that came out for the Xbox. They were just like, I got him to get the USB converter for it, and now he's building up a big gimmick. He's going to bring the whole kit and caboodle.
Oh man, I can't
to
wait.
Fest. And also, I think Graham's son's coming this year too, which that'll be a lot of fun. My boy's fired up. There will be a new Beat the Loot challenge this year, so he's excited. We're all excited to get into it. So please join us. And if you can't come around, well, hopefully you'll join us online. All right, Bo, what's next?
Next up, we got a new video from Kim Justice. Every once in a while, she's doing some Amiga stuff. She's been doing a lot of Amiga stuff here lately, actually.
Yeah.
She talks about sort of the less than ideal landscape of platformers on the Amiga. And then goes into Aladdin, and so or not Aladdin, Arabian Nights, which Arabian Nights actually is it is. It stars Aladdin, just a different Aladdin. This is a game that I hope we get a chance to check out at some point. I don't think we've ever done it on the show, but I watched your review and it's fantastic. This looks like a legitimate console style platformer for the Amiga. So bring it on, Game Selection Committee. I want to play it.
I have played this. I don't remember my thoughts on this. So there you go. It's a problem with being an old guy. I don't remember much. So everything, but the good thing is everything's brand new to me. So this should be a lot of fun. I like Kim's stuff. She does a lot of wrestling stuff. Kim Justice does. And she's done some really good stuff here in the past a couple months too. So if you're into wrestling at all, I would also urge you. Wrestling and video games. Me and Kim got them right down the same path on that.
They're like peanut butter and chocolate.
Well, yeah, sorta. What's next, Bo?
Coming up next, Aaron. This is your video of the week. This is our buddy Neil. Has done a this is a very long, I think this video is almost an hour long, retrospective on Amiga Format magazine. Of course, not a magazine that we saw much in the United States. I'm sure some were imported. But Neil, I think he subscribed to this magazine from almost the beginning to the end. This thing went out in like 2000, so it lasted forever. Aaron, did you give this one a watch?
Well, I used to get these occasionally at the store, believe it or not.
Okay.
Kroger's would, every once in a while you could find them back in the day. Same thing with a lot of the British game magazines, which always, if you think about it, if they're taking these magazines, I mean, someone had to be buying them. Right. Which means someone probably had an Amiga in, say, Huntington or something, back when I would find them. But, I mean, they didn't get that many. I know that. I'd see them there forever. But I did watch this. It's great. What I loved about it is, first of all, I have some of these magazines. I lost all my magazines when I moved a few years back, but there for a while, I had a lot of listeners were sending me magazines. So I've got Abby sent me a bunch, and some other people did. So I've got a bunch of these, and it's a good mag. I like the full game-centric mags, but this one has a lot of other stuff in it.
How do you feel about Neil putting on the murder gloves to page through these magazines?
Well, I mean, I'll put it this way. He knows what he's doing. I noticed that. I thought, man, this stuff's so sacred that you've got to put on the murder gloves, But Neil, I mean, listen, I don't know how rare these things are, but if here's the thing, if it's your museum, so you want to put your best foot forward. I mean, if he was, I mean, I'm just speculating here, but if Neil was heading to the can, you know what I mean, there at the museum, and he needed some reading material, would he grab an Amiga format without the murder gloves, take it in there to read it? I bet he would. That's just a guess.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But he might wear the murder gloves in the can. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. But I like the part of this where he gets into the end of the magazine where it's going over the cliff, because I distinctly remember that. In fact, I picked up some magazines after I'd gotten rid of my Amiga just to see what was going to happen, because I sold my Amiga off, and it was probably 90. I think it was like 93. That's when 94. It was early 94, late 93 when I sold mine. But by then you were boned. And to think that this magazine ran for another, 6 or 7 years, what are they talking about?
It just shows you what a different scene was, in the UK versus in the United States. In 93, 94, there were probably a lot of Amiga owners that were just like, yeah, SCOM, it's the future. We're going to be here forever. And so,
well, I mean, sincerely, I was reading and paying close attention because the magazine's the only way you could find anything out.
Right?
It's not like it's not like I could pick up the Charleston Gazette or the Lexington Herald Leader. They have like top story: Amiga sold. But at first it was XCOM, and then Gateway was going to be the
Mhm.
savior. But I mean, by the time that Gateway came around, I was like, we're screwed. Because this is also not the good Gateway that everybody loves. This is the crappy Gateway that had went downhill itself. And I was like, this thing
Now,
ain't coming back.
you know, Neil made several offhanded comments towards Babylon 5 over the course of this review.
He did.
You know, it seems to be somewhat of a joke among the Amiga community that the Amiga was involved. Do you want to set the record straight once and for all
Well,
about
you
the
know, it's
show
funny.
Babylon 5?
I did make a mention of this in the comment section because he did make a couple of Babylon 5 jokes. And like I said, I'll say the same thing now that I did then. Personally, I love Babylon 5. I love that show. People think it's too dorky. People think I don't care. It's the best, right? And so I'm proud that the Amiga, in some small way, helped get the show in the air by being used as a pilot for, you know, and for some battle planning stuff. But they used the Amiga to simulate what could be in the show if it's picked up, you know. And I'm proud of that. It's nice. I'm happy to support the same computer that was responsible for getting one of my all-time favorite shows put on the air. So I love it. I know Neil was just screwing around, by the way, but I do love Babylon 5. And now that you're watching it, I'm just tickled, bud. I just love it.
That's right. That's right. I started watching it just because of this whole episode. So Neil has converted me into a Babylon 5
Think
fan.
about it.
Thank you,
Neil's quips directly are responsible for you now being on the Babylon 5 train. I just love it. Good job, Neil.
You win again. All right, Aaron. Next up, it's the history of XCopy. This is one that this is you know,
I haven't seen this one.
when it comes to the wacky things that have to do with the Amiga, Rob Smith is the man. He's the man behind the Amiga dishwashing station that made its debut when I was over in Nottingham last summer, and now he's back with a exhaustive history of XCopy. So, Aaron, did you have a lot of time with the old XCopy back in the day?
Oh yes, absolutely. I remember going to my friend Larry's house with XCopy, and we used it quite a bit. The funny thing is, anyone that's done any piracy back in the day will tell you, you often didn't linger on a particular piece of software because often, eventually, it would be outdated. Because they would find a way to make sure that the famous copy things didn't work. But XCopy was around for a long time. They even updated it occasionally with like new versions, and I used it quite a bit. Would it copy everything? No, but it copied a lot, and I distinctly remember watching it do the copy, which is sort of legendary with the big 2 grids, and it would. You know, it would show you the little dots would fill as it went forward. I mean, I stared at that screen forever. You know, so it is nice. I'm pleased to see that there's nostalgia for this sort of thing, because it is fun to me, and it's one of those things. If you know, you know. You know what I mean? And if you don't,
Right.
You're just completely clueless on it. I loved it.
All right, and coming up next on our list here, we have What Really Killed Commodore. Nope, not that one. Right below where you are. This is the Retro Hour. Ravi and Dan have just interviewed Kelly Sumner, who is one of the head honchos over in Commodore back in the day. This is, by all accounts, going to be a very eye-opening interview, because this is one of these guys. He's not like certain other luminaries we know in the media community. Some people are willing to talk to anybody, including us. This guy, he doesn't open the kimono for just anybody, if you know what I'm saying. If you knew Kelly like I do, you realize that this is a get. So, if you want to check this out.
He was the guy before Mr. Pleasance, right? Is that
That's
correct?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So, if you want to get his exclusive thoughts on what really killed Commodore, check out the latest edition of the Retro Hour podcast, available now.
You know, I'm definitely going to hear this. I listen to a lot of Retro Hours. First of all, Retro Hour. I mean, do you need to hype them? They're great. And we've been good buddies with them for a long. I mean, I think since like right when we started.
Yeah,
we've
about the same age.
You know, and I love that show. And they're like a real they have journalistic integrity and a real interview show and a good one. You know, I really enjoyed their stuff, and they get real good guests. And you're right, I've never heard anything from this fellow. So I'm quite intrigued to check it out. So that's definitely one to put on your radar. It's a good find. Thanks for Rabby to pointing us at it.
Yeah. Speaking of good finds, Aaron, excuse me, Tenmark is back and he is unwrapping and unboxing one of the hottest new Amiga properties of 2023. This is a Badger Punch Games Roguecraft. This game made a big splash on the scene when it was released. In fact, we had one of the first ever physical copies that was being beta tested by one Josh Malone,
Yes.
aka 48K Ram at Boatfest last year. Doug's finally getting his hot little hands on it, and he has an exhaustive review of the packaging, of the posters that come with it, and of course the gameplay. Aaron, you are not the biggest Roguecraft fan, right?
No, I liked Roguecraft. I thought it was good. I played this a couple times. I thought it was fun.
Okay.
What made you
I
say
thought you
that?
hated these kind of games. I thought you hated rogue games, like rogue.
No, this is fun. I liked it.
Okay.
I've played this on stream. I think we maybe even played it at Amigathon. I'm not sure. We played some of the new stuff, but I thought this was quite good. I mean, it's a good looking game. It's I think it's a very interesting take. Of course, it's based on sort of the H.P. Lovecraft sort of universe. I mean, I don't know if it's officially based on it, but it's a homage, I guess. You can see Doug is in this video. He goes through and shows all the goodies it comes with, and he just sits down and plays the game for a while. Well, I was watching him open this, and got me to thinking, because inside the box, you get like a T-shirt, poster, there's stickers. Sometimes they give you keychains, or figurines and stuff. What do you think about? I mean, you're paying for this stuff, but you're getting it. I mean, what's your take on these modern games for retro systems that come with postcards and a million different things? I mean, do you like that? Does it matter to you ultimately if the game's any good or not? Like, where do you come down on that?
It depends. So, first of all, I think it's great that they give you options.
Yeah.
What I don't like is when a game is only available in a physical format and you have to buy the deluxe edition to get the game. That's no good. But if you've got a version of the game that's digital, a version of the game with the box and the manual, and then a deluxe edition with feelies, cool. That's cool. Now, what pushes me over the edge to get a box that has feelies in it? If it is any sort of like a role-playing game or something where you can get a cloth map, or something like that, I think is rad. I also like signed artwork. So if something would come with like a piece of artwork from the game that comes in a limited edition signed quantity, I might pick that up. Anything that's plastic, any sort of tchotchke, I am out. My shelves are full. I don't need any more busts. I don't need any more neoprene mats. I don't need any more keychains. I'm good. So for me, give me a good book of maps if I'm doing a role-playing game Kickstarter, or just a really nice hardbound manual. If it's something I'm going to be referring to. But I don't want any toys. No thanks.
Oh, and I don't think that in the case of this, but I mean,
no.
I'm not talking. My point is, I don't think in this case this applies, but I think sometimes the extra tchotchkes, as you call them, are sort of there to round out the value of what you're buying. Sometimes that tells me, well, the game is not the best, but they give you all these goodies to like round out the price a little bit. I'm like you. If I can just get the game digitally, I'm down. I like postcards and stickers and stuff. I mean, they're nice if that's your bag, but it's not necessarily my bag. Of course, I'm not really a huge game collector either. But I mean, I would be more prone just to get the box. If there's stuff in it, that's fine. But it's not a selling point for me, I guess.
Yeah, like for example, like the big thing these days are enamel pins.
Yeah,
like you get the enamel pin. It's just like, what do I wear that I could adorn with an enamel pin that wouldn't look dumb? And the answer is nothing. So
yeah, and if you think about it, and a couple of guys in the chat bring me this, if you do get stickers, tattoos, whatever, the collector in you won't let you even take them out of the plastic.
Yeah,
you're right. In fact, how many of these games get bought and the person that bought them never opens them because they just download it,
Right.
And a sealed box. This is where we are now as collectors. And I'm not bad-mouthing anybody because I'm not saying I would never do it either. It's just that's the way things are, So, but it's interesting. But yeah, this game I think is a good one. And of course, I always enjoy Doug. I'm glad to see Doug back in the game, Bode. It's good to see him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to do it for this week's Amiga News, Aaron. Tell us, good sir, what do we have coming up next week on the show?
Let's find out. Warhead. It's Warhead, Bode.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not gonna try to sway anybody on this game because I've never played it. But the Lord told me that this was a great game. You probably saw that in the Discord.
Excited. He's already posting tips in the Game of the Week chat, although we haven't even started the week yet. So he's ready to go.
So I value his word and opinion on this. So I'm looking forward to trying this out.
Me too.
Warhead, but I've never played it, so it should be fun.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for this week's show. We always want to give a shout out to the people that support us over at patreon.com/Amigos Podcast, as well as our Twitch subscribers. Thank you all so much. And if you'd like to join, we would love to have you join our Discord server. Plus, we give you a couple extra goodies throughout the year, including uncut and unedited episodes of every show that we do, where we talk about random stuff. We talked about the new James Bond Amazon acquisition in this week's pre-show. So we will see you guys next week for Warhead. And until then,
adios.
Amigos is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Patreon supporters help choose the games we play, receive exclusive magnets, and get access to the Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server. Visit patreon.com/Amigos Podcast if you'd like to support the show and join our community.